Hey, mic check. Can anybody hear me? Right. You would minimize the Twitch, and then if you want to see my screen, go to either my Twitch on a different tab or go to YouTube and you can watch it there. Everybody, anybody who's watching on YouTube right now, if any of you could type in the chat and let me know if you can hear me talking right now, because I have no idea if my volume is going over. And then we'll try and get Tinuvia and Myra into the voice as well. Okay, cool. They can hear me. It's my my chat relay is just not working. So restream. Sure, that might work. Okay, now YouTube folks, that you verified you can hear me. Can you verify that you can hear Myra or Tinuvia talking? Can one of you two talk for a minute? Tinuvia, can you say a few things so people we can see if I want to make sure the Discord audio is going through. All right, let's see if anybody says they can hear that. They're not hearing that. All right, I gotta figure out how to route Discord audio through. I was pretty sure it would go through my desktop audio. Let's see if maybe I have that not streaming. Good old technical fun. Let's see, we'll try putting this on track 1. All right, can you try to say something again? Let's see.
Oh, sorry. Back here again and testing if you can hear us. So we're hoping to, if you can hear us, we're hoping to, we're going to be working a bit on our faction pack that we'd hope to get some help troubleshooting.
Hey, they can hear you. Yeah, well, I'm
Excellent.
very excited to help you with your faction pack because it's one of my favorite factions, and the work you two do on your Sim Settlement stuff is always like above and beyond. So I'm crazy curious to see what you've been working on. As you're one of the last holdouts who haven't put out a faction pack from the regular squad of people who do Sim Settlement stuff all the time.
We've actually been working on the faction pack for a long time, but we weren't sure if we would be able to have the time that needed to devote to do a really good one. So we held off for a while, but then we sort of felt like it was going so much good things coming from Conquer that we really felt like we wanted in. So this is we have it's kind of gotten big, but there are a few things that we really need help with.
I love when things go crazy. Okay, I'm gonna bring up my desktop. If y'all want to watch, so we're not sure exactly. This is gonna take me a while to get used to this format of modding with people live because I got a couple of things going on here. First of all, there's 2 screens y'all are gonna want to see. So I'm gonna link in my YouTube chat. Actually, I'll put it right in the description of the video. Let me see here. Okay, I just put a. How do I save this? Maybe it just updates automatically. I don't know how my description updates for the video, but I'll post it in chat as well. And then if those of you in chat, if you see other people asking about it, if you could relink that. But basically, for now, you can bring up Myrm and Tinuvia on Twitch, and you can watch me on Twitch or YouTube, and you can choose whichever screen you want to look at. So if there's one person active or another, but yeah, so that's one issue is we don't know who's monitored the show at any given time, and then also of the there's probably going to be moments where we go kind of quiet because it'll be one side or the other of us thinking, and we're trying to like figure out, because we're going to be actually figuring out these problems right in front of you guys. This isn't going to be scripted or anything. Though it was really smart of you, Tinuvia, to send me that list of questions, so I had some time to kind of puzzle out some of this stuff up front, so we can kind of keep a flow going. And hopefully this is useful to people who are watching. If you all are interested in modding in any way, in this particular one, we're going to be focused on a lot of sim settlements related stuff. But I mean, any of this stuff I show will be useful in modding in general. It's just that these examples are all very sim settlements focused. So
I think some of the things we were talking could be interesting for others with the intermod communication, because we've been trying to find a way to use functions that are in Conqueror while Conqueror is an ESP, so it's not a master file.
Yes, that is that's definitely an issue, and it's really cool that Bethesda solved this problem already. They've given us all of the stuff, the tools we need to do this, so you can have intermod communication without dependency. Now, there's one way that you might be able to do this. It might just be easier for the scripting, especially because does either of you have any coding background?
Well, the thing is, I have a little bit, but for me, it's a means to an end. So I do it
Sure.
in my everyday job, but it's I use MATLAB and a little bit of Python. So
Okay.
Papyrus has been completely new, and your mod school has been really helpful
Oh,
in
fantastic.
getting the understanding the basics of Papyrus.
I think to summarize, Susan has some, and I have none.
Okay. All right. So one of the things you could do, and that this is something I have no experience doing, I've just been told it's possible, is theoretically you could edit your copy of Conqueror and make it an ESM as just flag it as an ESM in the header, but leave it an ESP, and then that theoretically should work, and then you'd be able to just set up everything, because presumably your faction pack, you're only going to want it on to be working with somebody who has Conqueror installed, right? Like it's not going to, but that might cause problems when they actually go to use it. I haven't tried this. So the way I like to do it is I use what I call a relay script. And I actually have one in Sim Settlements itself, because Sim Settlements needs to know about some of the things that are going on in Conqueror. And I didn't want it to be a requirement. So I've got this script up right here, and I will shoot you. Let me see what the best way to do this is. I guess I will find this file. How do I do that in Notepad++?
We actually, I have our mod zipped up. And I was thinking about sending you some of our source files, so you can see, because I've tried to look at how you set up and how you're talking in the raid gang manager and the outpost manager and the faction manager. So I have set up, but the thing I get stuck on, I think, is mostly the dynamical data storage.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I don't know how to get the main outpost, and when I try to get the main outpost from outpost manager,
Yeah.
it doesn't fill.
Okay.
Yeah,
why don't you send me some of your stuff, and we'll poke our heads into it. But the idea behind a relay script is that if you were trying to set up some sort of dependence, or not a dependency, a non-dependency on another mod, you just want to be able to access script functions from some other mod. If you were to do it directly, if you were to start calling functions like that, basically that whole script, if that other mod isn't loaded, that whole script will fail. And so if you were trying to do it in a way where it wasn't dependent and it would just kick in extra features for people who had that particular mod, you wouldn't want to do that, because then you'd break your whole script if the player didn't have it installed. So the idea of a relay is you put all of the stuff for a particular mod that's optional in one script, and then you talk to that script. You talk to your relay script with your whatever your main script is. But in this case, because your faction pack isn't going to work without Conqueror anyway, I don't even think you don't need to go to all that trouble to do a relay script.
I think there was one thing when I was looking at the Creation Kit wiki. It seemed like for most things you can do the thing that you have done, where you get form from file, and then you sort of cast as.
Yeah.
But they said something for remote registering for remote events. That one could cause persistence.
Hold on a second. Trying to get the Twitch audio working. Apparently that's not working, and my computer decided to start playing whoever was on the Twitch homepage. All right, let's see here. Apologies, people watching on Twitch. I'll get you guys up in a second. Although you can't hear me, so it doesn't matter. Let's see here. I am new to this restream nonsense. I don't know It might be. I just actually, you know what? Just for the sake of not boring everybody while they they watch me work out technical details, I'm going to just send a message on Twitch. How do you do that? I don't even know how to do that. I'm just on Twitch. Just go listen to my audio on YouTube because I cannot. I don't have time to deal with this right now. I'll figure it out for next time. So let's see here.
It's a bit of a pity because I had a few screenshots that we have so we can show what sort of we've been working on.
Yeah.
But I don't think I can get them to be showing on. I'm not sure if I can show them in the background.
Hey, Susan, no spoilers.
So do you want to send me something through Discord and I can look at what you've got going on here?
I'm not. Should I just send the script because the whole mod is
Go ahead and send the script.
175 megabyte right now?
Yeah, maybe just send the script you need help with, and we'll go from there.
I'll get you those just a second.
Yeah, and as far as if you wanted to show any screenshots or whatever, if you want spoilers, anything you show on your desktop we can see right now. So literally you can just open up your image in any image software and we can literally see the exact same thing you're seeing. Like they can see my Discord icon lit up right now on the right half of your screen.
All right. I should actually, but I wonder if I can do the same things. Let's see. I'll try and get this one up.
Now, what kind of dirty icons do you have on that computer, huh?
I know. But
Adam's glory, yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry, now you're missing it. We have sort of our own city planner's desk and war planner's desk, of course. And then we have outfits for the recruits and also for civilians later on.
Oh, fantastic.
Surprise. It's about the children of Atom.
So we're
it's one of the best factions. It's such a great idea for a faction. Love that you guys are doing this.
What's really good about him is since they're such seal of nutcases, we can actually, when we rework the dialogue, the vanilla dialogue, sometimes you can make them say things that doesn't really make sense, and it's easier to get away with it.
Right.
It's nuts. You can say whatever you want. Like, it's random mumbling. It's the children of Atom.
So you're actually taking it so far as you're cutting apart all of the default dialogue and making your own?
Yeah, but we're reusing. We wanted to get them if you had the recruit as vendors, we wanted them to have children Atom voices. So we have set up cut apart reusing sort of slices of the dialogue, and we have like if you have a bartender, he'll greet you with something like "wash away your sufferings in Adam's glow," or something like that.
Do the children of Atom in the game, do they use the same pool of voice actors that the rest of the characters do? Because there's like those male Boston, male rough, female old, etc. Do they use that same cast of characters?
There's 2 male voices and 1 female voice, so there's just really not enough. So we're trying to get things from Far Harbor, because they have unique voice actors. So we're setting them up as more to use as default characters, also to fill out the recruits. And this is another thing I wanted to ask you about. We have some the totems.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to. I purposed your City Planner desk script a bit to let the faction packs sub-spawn things, because then I could use a form list. So I have like I think it's like 15 base totems.
Okay.
That can spawn things from form lists.
Yeah.
So the like 800 different varieties. So,
that's awesome. So you took it above and beyond what we did.
But I wanted to check with you because I mean this would be more performance.
It definitely would impact performance. So yeah, we can look at that script. It should be pretty safe. The hardest part about using sub spawners is usually remembering to clean up, is like making sure you have appropriate cleanup code. But I've got that largely solved, and I can make sure that you have something equivalent in there to handle that. Like you got to think about all the different ways that the player might destroy those items, and that you got to make sure that your code responds to it and cleans up the sub items. So things like they could scrap it in workshop mode, or they could deleted in console, or another mod could scrap it, and so you got to be prepared for as many of those scenarios as possible.
True. That would be excellent to look at. But so I think that would be perfect.
Okay, and then I think the third big one you had was you have some idea for some startup quest where you want to mess with the player's health.
Yes.
Oh, and then unique NPC commanders. So those are the other two big issues you want to talk about.
That's exactly true. I'm gonna try and get you the if we start back on the because the thing I wanted to with the main outpost is it would be great if you could find a way to track how many gang controlled settlements the player has.
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely do that. In fact, let me bring up some of my Conqueror scripts here, and then I can just show you how I did it.
For you, couldn't I? There.
Yeah, you can just drop files right in, and I can take a look at them.
So these are these are the 3 scripts. I think I would love to have some help. And the first one is the one that's called Controller Quest script.
Yeah.
That's the one that's the base for the mod.
Okay, perfect. So it looks like you followed my tutorial recently because it's got
yes, I did.
It's got the template. Fantastic. Okay. So let me just skim through this real quick and try and get a rough idea what it's doing. This is what happens when you code for 20 hours a day. You can just scroll through a script and understand what it's doing.
I would love to have that ability.
Sort of like in Matrix mode. I see the code.
I don't see the code. Let's see here. Count gang controlled workshops. Okay, so I think the biggest thing here, it looks like that there's a disconnect on, is the way that I store data for sim settlements and my mods in general. So there are 2 things at work here. One is your faction data, which is the little thing you make for your faction pack that is, defines, what are my recruits, what are my outfits, what are my ranks, things like that. That's kind of your faction controlled data is what I call that. And then there's the faction data, which is the real-time data that gets recorded about your faction during gameplay. And that's where you would find things like the main outpost and the your number of outposts and vassals. So let me open up this script here. So this is a system I came up with because we don't have database functionality in the game. We have no way to just like store arbitrary data easily. So in order to get around this, I started doing the system where I basically create these, and if you see on stream, you'll just see a bunch of text that's probably garbage to any of you that's not a programmer. But all this is it's just a definition of a whole bunch of variables that I want to store information on. So if we look at this, I've got things like, let's see, what's something that you guys can follow easily. Okay, so we've got like the main outpost, an array, which is defined by these little brackets, an array of outposts, an array of vassals, an array of the units that are queued up for production. And basically, this is just all set up as an object reference. So I basically spawn this invisible object in some arbitrary cell, and then I keep it in memory, and it just has all these variables here, and then I can store whatever information I need about your faction. So this is what you want to get access to, and it's really useful too for doing to bypassing kind of the array limitations, because you can't have multi-dimensional arrays, but you can have infinite of these objects. So effectively, and I can keep going as deep as I want with this in layers, and so I can effectively just create as many object references as I want and virtually have arrays as many levels as deep as I need to go.
And you don't have to define to make them beforehand. You can make new ones as you need them.
Yep, make them on the fly with just place at me.
That's excellent.
So this is what you need. So basically, what you need to do is query for this data. So to do that, I have that set up, and so we're kind of shorthanding here, just going over or skipping over some stuff because you guys obviously know how to do this, and this is so complicated for me to show in detail, so people watching.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, I haven't open sourced these scripts. That is a plan in the long term to do, but I'm always nervous about open sourcing scripts that I know are wonky. And a lot of the Sim Settlements core code is really wonky. So like I don't want to give out bad information. So any of you who wants to get access to these scripts to see them, the decompiler that's available on nexusmods.com, it's called Champolion, I think, CHAMPOLLION. I'm sure somebody in chat can post a link to it. But that decompiler is fantastic. It does a really good job of getting the scripts almost verbatim. Like obviously you lose all of my comments, but you can still get access to all this information. All right, so there's
incredibly helpful. It's but it was actually, I think it was very helpful also that you have the workshop framework code on GitHub, because sometimes when I copied things from the decompiled scripts and I didn't get them to work, I could check your scripts on GitHub and see, aha, that's how it's supposed to look.
Yeah. Get that, and that's what I would like to do with all of my code eventually. And with Workshop Framework and Workshop Plus, I wrote them from the get-go knowing they were going to be public. So I'm like, okay, I'll make sure that my code is clean. I'm following, standardization naming schemes, and make sure that it's like intelligible and not just hacked together code. So most of the code you find on my Git should all be safe to repeat and reuse. And generally, if I find something I did stupid, those 2 mods are the first ones I go fix it in and like fix those patterns in, because I don't want that stuff out in the world. That's dumb, because there's a lot of stuff like that I've done in my mods that's just really dumb, but I didn't know it at the time, and I've since learned as much. So
I think that's the thing. I mean, you learn as you go, and it's also like you want to do things that haven't been done before in Fallout and the Papyrus. So I mean, you need to sort of evolve.
Yeah, and it's a challenge. I just feel so bad when I give out bad information to people. Like that's why. Like I also, whenever people comment on my Bethesda Mod School videos of something I did wrong, it's like I'd go slam that with a heart and try and get it to at least come up a little higher in the comments list, so that people have a chance to see that information. Okay, so there's a quest on here you're going to need to grab access to. It's called Faction Manager, and I will, as you can, I don't know if you're watching my stream, but I'm going to post this into chat. So this is the script name that you're going to want to grab. And then let me find the function you're going to call. Let's see here. So basically what you need to do is, here we go, get faction data store. So here is a function that's on that faction manager that you're going to want to grab. So there's this subtype, the Sim Settlements Conqueror faction data. That's this one I showed you here, that one that just has all of the information about the faction recorded. So that's what you're going to want to grab a copy of. And you use on the faction manager, you call get faction data store, and you send it your control data object. So you send the form for your Children of Adam. You send it that as its argument, and it will return all of the data the player has created playing with your faction pack. So that includes all of these variables here in this faction data script. And then so you can just then store a copy of, you can store a reference to this in your script. And then at any time you can just go poke it, because that's another cool thing, is because these are object references. If you store a copy of this, it's not an actual copy, it's just a reference to. So your copy of the variable will always point to the correct data that's being updated in real time.
Great. I think I actually have that for, I think you do that in the Outpost Manager script. You're calling get faction data.
Yeah, I probably do it a bunch of times in there, yeah.
So the only thing that you can do that because you're in Conqueror already. So I sort of need to rewrite this in a way that's remote calling, I think, anyway. I think that's when I tried to compile it and I couldn't. I think that's because I'm writing it wrong. And I think that's under the function get main outpost.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now. So I see your faction data. You have the faction data here. It looks like, let's see here.
Because I'm not getting the faction control data. I think you're right. I think I went for the wrong. Yeah, I do though.
Well, see that. So this first thing, you have the faction manager, and you're casting that as, and then it looks like you tried to grab faction data as the same form, which you wouldn't want to do. So you'd want to start another variable. But in this case, you actually aren't going to do a cast as like that. Instead, you're going to just call. So you would call. Let me get my thing back up. So you're going to do. So if I'm looking at your script here, you're going to go. So right now so we delete this line. This line is not very useful. So instead, what you're going to do is because this is only going to show up, you're always going to have Conqueror installed, right? Like you're not expecting anybody to try and play your faction pack without Conqueror. Is that accurate?
No, I wanted to try. I did that in the startup script, like to check if the plugin is installed, and then sort of do a debug trace if it's not. But I mean, it's like you said, they will have it. It's
right.
You can't play without it.
So I would say, and rather than going through all this trouble of doing cast as for this particular use, I would just decompile all my scripts so that you have a copy in your source, which will allow, as long as you have a copy of them, all of your scripts will compile just as if you were writing the same way I do. So the reason the compiles are failing is because you don't have the scripts locally.
But I do decompile them, and I wonder if that's it. Yeah, I mean, you definitely know better about this. So, but I have your, yeah, I have your scripts decompiled, and I have set them up in the PSC form.
Yeah. Do you have them in the same directories that I did? So like I should be under scripts user. Scripts source user, and then some settlements Conqueror, and then that will be most of them. And then there's probably some subfolders I have set up as well.
So most of these calls, they work, but maybe like you say, because I started doing maybe that's, I don't know, because I think I've tried the one also when I have sim settlements Conquer, do you say colon, faction data.
Okay.
I think that, yeah, I'm gonna have to try it, because I think that's like you say, I have to make sure that I have a good version, because when I've been doing that, sometimes I at the beginning I just started to do your scripts as sort of blank script, just the script name.
Okay.
But then they were calling for functions in it, so I had to fit it with the functions. In the end, I just filled it with the whole decompiled script.
Gotcha.
So I think it should work. But
it should, yeah. The decompiled. I mean, there occasion the decompiled scripts don't work correctly, and so obviously you two are, you've been around sometimes for a long time. If you need any of the just actual scripts, and because your decompiled aren't working, just shoot me a message. I'm happy to send you the source.
Yeah, because there could be something. There was a lot of like I got hashes instead of colons or some.
That is one of with the namespaces that can happen sometimes. Yeah, so if you need source files, I can definitely send them to you. But that line that I just typed into Discord, that's what you'd want to use to get access to your data. And like I said, you could actually do this. Do this one time, and once you have it, then from then on, you could. So what I might actually do for you is set up a new function that looks like this. Let me write up a new function here. Let's see, function get faction data. So what I would do is basically store, the first time you snag it correctly from Faction Manager, I would just store a copy as a global variable in your script. And then you use this function to just basically check, like, do I have that? If not, go ask Conqueror for it. And then if Conqueror, and then when Conqueror returns it to me, I'll store it. And then from then on, my function can just return this. And I'm going to just write you the whole function here in a second here. So if my data does not equal none, return. And obviously you can change the name of these variables. I'm just using something simple. And then otherwise it's going to be my data equals, and then my data would be a type like this. And obviously you have your faction config form is your COA faction. So a function like this, I'm going to copy paste this to you. And I have defined above it a global. Oops. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, so this little block of code I just sent you right here. So that the first line is just defining yourself a variable called my data, which is just going to be the faction data. Then this